Hello, YouTube. I would like to say thank you and welcome to my channel, Information World. The information is everywhere. This is my initial video. Also, this is my welcome video. So I like to start off by saying thank you for stopping by. I hope that you enjoy the content that you do see and hear on this side of YouTube. My main purpose of this will be definitely to show current events, but it's not limited to current events from around the world that will affect you if they haven't already. One of the first things I want to talk about are these. It may was kind of weird to me when I first heard it, but I definitely did my research on it, and I see that it's definitely a real thing, and it's not the first time that it happened around the world. I'm not going to be objective at all. If there's any debate about anything that I bring up or anything that I talk about, I'm definitely going to try to show both sides of the argument to leave you, my viewers, to definitely leave comments down below and tell me what you think. Tell me what side you're on. Okay. This first story is about genetically modified mosquitoes. Like I said, when I first heard that, I'm like, man, they genetically modified everything. Now, but what they say they're for is to eradicate all of the mosquito-borne illnesses like the Zika virus, the dengue virus, the West Nile virus, just to name a few. And they say they've tried everything. They've tried insecticides, different preventative measures, vaccines, bed nets, you name it. The scientists they say they've tried it, but this is a new technology they're coming out to eradicate the so-called deadly viruses coming from mosquitoes. They haven't tried them in the United States yet. Well, no, no, no. They have tried them 2 weeks ago. They just started the trials in Florida 2 weeks ago, but they have been done all over the world in places like Cayman Islands, Brazil, Malaysia, Panama, like I said, just to name a couple. With the rise of mosquito-borne illnesses, or yeah, mosquito-borne illnesses, they have to try something because they say over 1 million people die from these type of illnesses every year. I'm going to play a little bit of commentary. I'm going to come back and talk about the company that started this and what I think and my own thoughts, my own personal thoughts on it. And also, like I said, I'm going to play the other side and give you my thoughts on that too. So here we go.
Population of these deadly mosquitoes. Oxitec, a UK-based firm, is behind this technology. It has previously field tested the insects in Brazil, Panama, Malaysia, and the Cayman Islands. But until now, no genetically engineered mosquito has been trialed in the United States, largely due to pushback from American activists. Now, with an alarming rise of mosquito-borne diseases in Florida, local authorities have been forced to take this controversial step. Here's what the artificial mosquitoes will do. The males which don't bite will be released in the wild to mate with the female population. The female Aedes aegypti are responsible for biting prey and transmitting the disease. The genetically engineered males carry a gene that will pass to the offspring and kill female progeny in the early stages.
Definitely want
The
to talk
male
about that
offspring
part.
will not die but will become carriers of the genes and pass it to future generations. As lesser females are born, the Aedes aegypti population will dwindle. So, how many bioengineered mosquitoes will be released? Around 12,000 males will exit their boxes over the next 12 weeks. And in the second
Let me just pause it right there. And when they say that, in another article I read, like I said, it's going to be 12,000 mosquitoes per week for the next 12 weeks. So definitely want to get that part right.
2021, 20 million mosquitoes will emerge over a period of 16 weeks. The mosquitoes carry a fluorescent marker gene which makes them glow, which in return makes identification and monitoring the trial easier for researchers. This step may have been taken to prevent the spread of diseases, but the residents of Florida are not too impressed. Many are worried that the mosquitoes will disrupt Florida's ecosystem. Some others fear that gene editing technology could turn haywire and turn the mosquitoes against humans.
Now let's stop that right there real quick. One thing you need to know about these mosquitoes, like he said, like he said, just to go a little bit deeper. There was a first generation mosquito that Oxitec, this UK based firm came out with that was called the first generation mosquito, the first generation genetically modified mosquito, but it wasn't the way they wanted it. In a chart that I have about this, they say the first generation killed off the male and the female mosquitoes. Okay, but the second generation that they came up with actually just goes in with two different genes inside of the genetically modified mosquito, which is the fluorescent marker gene. I'm going to talk about that in a minute and my thoughts on that. And also a gene that goes in and called tetracycline or something like that that goes in and kills the female offspring in her early cycle in the mosquito's womb or in its early cycle of life where it won't get a chance to mature. In this age of population control, in this age of abortions and pandemics and diseases and viruses everywhere, now they want to come up with a mosquito that's genetically modified that goes in and carries a gene with it, along with all the other viruses. You have to worry about a mosquito with a virus with a gene in it that actually kills the female mosquito in the womb. But what if this goes haywire? Like we know things do, like a bad sci-fi movie. The mosquito starts to bite people, and all of a sudden, 10 years later, 5 years later, maybe just sooner than that, maybe later than that, we start to see a rise of stillbirths in certain communities or all over the world. We see uh, mutations of different types from all over the world. I mean, coming from this thing, but no one will be able to pinpoint it back because they say that it was this. We can speculate like everything else, but no one will truly know where it came from. So this is what scares me because we see everything else from bath salts turning people into zombies to what was that drug in Florida they got called Flocka that got people tripping. Now that's on a big scale. But what about on a smaller scale when it comes to these molecular and these cellular gene, diseases that they come out with, viruses and things that make your eyes bleed and all this extra stuff. And you know what I'm talking about. If you stay up on this kind of thing, you know exactly what I'm saying. Um, One other thing I want to talk about before I move forward with another part of the video and more commentary on the video that I want to speak on real quick. Stay with me, please. This fluorescent marker that they had. Me and my fiance were just talking about it a couple of days ago. What happened to all the fireflies? I mean, in my day when I was young, we caught fireflies. That's just what we did. You know, definitely caught them in jars and everything else. Everything else, but now you don't see them. But now they have a mosquito that glows with a fluorescent marker gene with it. So now we have firefly slash mosquitoes flying around to be studied. Now I can understand why a company like this would want to eradicate the firefly because you got fireflies flying around. It's kind of obvious and logical, really. Fireflies with their green marker, and you got mosquitoes with their green marker. You can't track them all because it throw your studies off, your numbers off, and everything else. So you have to get rid of one. So uh, another thing, when it comes to this UK based firm, they also were funded by guess who? Bill and Melinda Gates of all people funded this as well, just like everything else. I It ain't none of my business, but I don't know how they got so deep involved in medicine. Maybe they've been deep in medicine. Who knows? World events such as pandemics and things. Who knows? I don't know their background, but it just seems to me they're always somewhere in the background waiting or with a hand in this or that when it comes to this type of thing. Real quick about Oxytec. They are a biotechnology firm. They're in the biotech industry. They were founded in 2002 by a guy named Luke Alphey, Alphey. He's the founder. Then you have Gray Franson, Grey Frandsен. He's the CEO. They formed their partnership. It's at some point, I think around 2017, 2018. They formed their partnership with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as well. So they also the company claims to have already released over 1 billion mosquitoes in the world without issues. So who knows how accurate that is, but that's what they claim. And now I'm going to play another video for you from the other side of this argument, okay? Now, when I first heard this, I was like, wow. You know, outside of the first video, when I heard the first video, I was like, wow, really? But the second video, it made me kind of recant my wow, because it made me feel as if maybe there is a need for this type of information or this type of organism flying around, because the way they explain it, they've tried everything. I'm going to play this video, and then you just tell me what you think.
Is a long and difficult process.
Hold on one second. I don't know what my damn volume might be going up.
Worldwide die from mosquito-borne diseases every year. In a previous video, I talked about malaria, perhaps the most devastating of all the mosquito-borne illnesses. Die from mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are the worst.com/real science and get free access to watch.
Like I said, this is my initial video. It'll get much better later.
It's the one thing everyone can agree on. Mosquitoes are the worst. For some, they are simply the ruiner of picnics and camping trips. But for a huge fraction of the world, they are much more than a nuisance. Mosquitoes cause more human suffering than any other organism because of the horrific diseases they carry. Over 1 million people worldwide die from mosquito-borne diseases every year. In a previous video, I talked about malaria, perhaps the most devastating of all the mosquito-borne illnesses, killing about 500,000 people each year. And while less common, other diseases like West Nile virus, yellow fever, and dengue fever are each insidious in their own way, debilitating and deadly to many in the tropics and subtropics. Some diseases like malaria are declining, but other diseases like dengue are very much on the rise. In the past 30 years, the worldwide incidence of dengue has risen 30-fold. Billions get spent trying to combat these diseases. Vaccines, insecticides, education programs, bed nets, treatment drugs, prevention drugs. There are so many things scientists do to try to stem the tide of infections. But even as progress is made in one region, infections will flare up in others. It's like the worst game of whack-a-mole imaginable. It takes an unprecedented, coordinated effort across many geographic and political lines to even make a dent, and an insane amount of money. But much of the current funding has plateaued, and some of the drugs that have been used for years are becoming less and less effective. The malaria parasite in particular has started to develop resistance to currently available drugs. Insecticide resistance is also becoming a challenge in many mosquito species, including the widespread and usually invasive Aedes aegypti. And this is why some scientists are looking towards a totally new approach, something radical and controversial, to end the whack-a-mole game once and for all. Genetically modified mosquitoes. In theory, their widespread release could lead to the total extinction of certain species of mosquitoes, eliminating the vector for so many deadly diseases. It's an extreme idea, but a future with GM mosquitoes flying freely in our world may not be that far away. This summer.
That report came from the Real Science channel. I watch them a lot as well. I'm going to leave a link to the description of this video as well. They talk about a lot about different current events from around the world that you may not be privy to, or you are privy to definitely because you can just research it, but may not have the knowledge about these certain things. You know, so that's why I'm here, is definitely to show you different events that are going on around the world that will affect you if they haven't already. Definitely. So this made me look at it. It made me look at the argument from another perspective too, because no matter how objective I am, and I say, well, why would they do this? Well, population control, trying to kill people off, mutations, or the future. But then, what if you talk to somebody who has suffered from these diseases? and live in these third world countries, and they have felt the effects and seen the effects of these different viruses, like the dengue. My first time really hearing it, when I first started doing this report, I've never heard of the dengue virus ever until recently, until I started listening to this. The West Nile virus. What's another one? The Zika virus. Someone who has experienced these things may be welcoming a genetically modified mosquito because they've tried everything else. So that's what I mean by it makes me say wow. It makes me kind of recant my initial stance and kind of sways me a little bit more. You tell me what you think in the comments about the whole thing, about the entire situation. Tell me what side you stand on, and I hope you enjoyed the commentary. And I will definitely try my best to bring you more. I'm going to bring you more, and it's going to be more polished than today. But like I said, this is just my first video, and it's definitely progress over being stagnant. I may not have the finest technology yet, but at the same time, I will get that. And I just couldn't sit on my hands. So that's my advice to anybody else who wants to start a video too. If you may not have the finest technology, but you may have a lot to say, I just say get it out there. And thank you, because remember, the information is everywhere.